Mishna Sukkah, chapter 4, Mishnah 6. Over here in this Mishnah, we're going to learn about what was actually used on Shabbos at the Mizebeach. We learned in the previous Mishnah how they would put up the Arovot after going around the Mizebeach. They would put the Arovot up against the Mizebeach. And the question over here is, what happened on Shabbos? We've got a big boxing match over here. And this is the Tanakama versus Rabbi Yochonon ben Broka. And they're having an argument about what was actually used on the Mizebeach after they went around the Mizebeach. What did they put on the Mizebeach? Was it an Arava? Was it a willow branch? Or was it a date palm? Let's have a look inside the words of the Mishnah to further investigate this at greater detail to get the answer. Was it the Arava or was it date palm that they actually put against the Mizebeach? Like they did during the week, koch, so ma'aseo v'Shabbos, they would do on Shabbos. So this that they did with the avodah of the Arava, of putting the Arava, the willow branch, against the Mizebeach after encircling it during the week, they would do the same thing on Shabbos. Ella, but there was something that they did beforehand. But Shahaya Malakdin Oison, they would gather them. May Erev Shabbos, from Erev Shabbos on Friday afternoon, or Manichim Oison, and they would place them Begigos Shel Zav, in large vessels made out of gold. Kedei, in order Shaloyich Moshe, that they shouldn't wither away. Rabbi Yochonon ben Broka, however, he argues. Omer, he says, Charias Shel Dekel, they actually used branches of a date palm. Hayomavin, they would bring them, v'chovtin oison, and they would also bang them, bekarka, on the ground, b'tzidei hamizbeach, on the side of the mizbeach, v'oisoi hayom, and that day, nikra yom chibur charis, was called the day of the banging of the branches. So let's just go and have a look at the Rav, at the Bar Tanura, and how he explains this Mishnah and what the conclusion of it actually is. So we said that on Erev Shabbos they would take branches of the willows. On Friday afternoon they'd store them in these large golden containers. They were called gigios. Gigios, says the Bar Tanura, kalim shel zahav, they were vessels of gold, malay mayim, full of water, kedei shelo yichimoshu alein, in order that the willows should not wither away over Shabbos while they were being stored. So they put them in these big golden vessels of water. Then the Bar Tanura goes on and explains the word charios. What are charios? Because according to Rabbi Yochonon ben Broka, they didn't actually use willows. They used charios shel dekel, branches of date palms. So says the Bar Tanura, charios anofim shel dekel, branches of date palms, hayomevian, they would bring them, Bain b'chol, bain b'Shabbos, whether on the weekday or whether on Shabbos, for lo Arava. So according to him, they didn't use the Arava. They used date palms. Diksiv kapos tamarim, that it was leaves of date palms. Shnaim hain, they were two. Echad lulav, one was for the lulav, that they would put the willows as usual on the lulav, but they never used them for putting them on the mizbeach. For echad lemizbeach, and one was always used on the mizbeach, even during the week, according to Rabbi Yochonon ben Broka. For ein halacha ka Rabbi Yochonon ben Broka, and halacha is not like Yochonon ben Broka. Okay, so just to sum up, so we had a match, a fight, so to speak, between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yochonon ben Broka about what was used at the Mizebeach when they would go around and they put those branches around the Mizebeach. Was it a date palm or was it willow branches? Then we talked about how they would encircle every day the Mizebeach and they would put these Arovos, according to the Tanakama, around the Mizebeach. That's what we learned in the previous Mishnah. And this one, we're saying they also did that on Shabbos, but there was one difference. On Erev Shabbos, they would cut and they'd gather the willows and place them in large golden vessels filled with water so they wouldn't wither out when they took them on Shabbos to go around the Mizebeach and to put them on the Mizebeach. And then enters our challenger, our wrestler, Rabbi Yochonon ben Broka, who argues with the Tanakama, and he says, no, they didn't use willows. Rather, they used date palms. In the end, after the whole procedure of going around the Mizebeach on the seventh day, they would take the branches and bang them on the ground. Today we do this on the seventh day of Sukkot on Hoshana Rabbah. And that day they would call the seventh day of the taking of the Arava the banging of the branches.